trying to get a handle on this whole IELTS reading test thing for 2025.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming, right? All that info out there, whether you're prepping for university or a career change or just curious.
A lot.
Definitely a lot to sift through. But hey, that's kind of why we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
To break it down, we've been diving deep into this discussion all about the IELTS Reading Test 2025 with answers.
Yeah, trying to get to the heart of it, make it digestible,
Exactly. That's the goal. In this deep dive, we want to give you a clear picture, a roadmap almost, of the IELTS Reading Test specifically for 2025.
Cutting through the noise.
Cutting through the noise, we'll hit the format, those tricky question types you got to be ready for, what's new and different.
Stuff that really matters.
The stuff that really matters. And of course, strategies, effective strategies that can give you an edge, whether you're going the academic route or the general training one.
Okay, so you've got questions, probably a ton of them, about this IELTS reading test.
We've got answers extracted and ready to go.
Let's jump right in. First things first, the structure, the nuts and bolts of this test. What are we dealing with here?
Okay, so at its core, the IELTS reading test, both the academic and general training versions, throws 40 questions at you.
40.
40 questions, yeah. And you've got to get through them all within 60 minutes. It's a time crunch, no doubt.
Intense. And these questions are bundled into 3 sections, right?
3 sections, precisely. That's how the test paper is structured.
Right. Now, this is important. The academic and general training tests aren't identical twins, are they? What sets them apart right from the get-go?
Definitely not identical. In the academic module, you'll be wrestling with 3 pretty lengthy reading passages. Think academic stuff,
Textbook excerpts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, textbook excerpts, articles from scholarly journals, maybe a piece from a well-respected newspaper. The language is formal, analytical.
So definitely got to be in that headspace, the academic mindset.
Yeah, ready to analyze and dissect. The topics often revolve around science, innovation, research, typical academic fare.
Gotcha. So pretty dense, intellectually stimulating stuff. What about the folks taking the general training test? What's on their plate?
General training is a bit different, especially at the start. The first 2 sections present shorter, more practical pieces, stuff you'd encounter in daily life.
Like what?
Think advertisements, maybe public announcements, those how-to guides you get with appliances, instruction manuals.
Oh, stuff everyone throws away.
Yeah, well, important stuff nonetheless. Very practical, real-world stuff. Then, the third section throws a longer passage at you, more general in topic, but still detailed. It's comparable in length to the academic passages, but the vocabulary is less technical, less specialized.
So tailored to a different purpose, a different use of English.
Exactly. Now, once you've tackled all those passages and questions, how's it scored? Same system for both, right?
Yeah, is it?
It is, yep. 1 point for each correct answer you give. Then these raw scores get converted into the IELTS band score. The one everyone talks about. It ranges from 1, the lowest, to 9, the highest level.
Okay, so pretty straightforward scoring system there. So really getting a grip on the basics, how many questions, the time limit, and crucially, the style and source of those readings, depending on which test you're taking. That's got to be step 1, right?
Absolutely, step 1. Knowing the playing field lets you tailor your prep, your practice sessions, so you're laser focused on the demands of your specific module.
Makes sense. No point in practicing for a marathon if you're running a sprint, right?
Right. Okay, we've sketched out the test, the big picture. Now let's zero in. What types of questions pop up again and again, the ones anyone prepping for the 2025 test should have on their radar? All right, so in the IELTS reading test, there are these usual suspects, the question types you see repeatedly. True, false, not given is one of them. You got to figure out if a statement lines up with the info in the passage, either explicitly stated or subtly implied.
Those can be tricky. It's not just about matching words, is it?
Nope. It's about grasping the nuances, the underlying meaning. Then there's multiple choice, classic format, pick the best answer from the options they give you, all based on the text, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Matching headings, that's another one. You got to link the right heading or subheading to the right paragraph or section.
It's like finding the title to fit the chapter best.
Exactly. Sometimes it feels like several headings could work, though.
Oh, I know that feeling. What's the secret sauce there?
The key is to nail down the core idea of each paragraph, not just little details. Find that sentence, the one that sums up the main point. Now, 2 other formats you'll see are sentence completion and summary completion. Sentence completion has you filling in blanks in sentences with words taken straight from the passage. And in summary completion, you got to complete, a summary of a chunk of the text using either options they provide or words lifted right from the passage.
So it's testing your ability to grasp details, understand the bigger picture, and extract specific info all in one go.
Pretty much. They throw a lot at you.
They do. Are there any subtle shifts in how these question types are used between the academic and general training modules?
There are some nuances, yeah. In the academic module, you might get tasks like matching lists, say pairing researchers with their findings, or pinpointing which paragraph has specific info. It's about navigating and understanding complex academic writing, how it all fits together.
Makes sense.
Now, the early sections of the general training test, they often lean towards straightforward comprehension. It's about, can you get the message of an ad? Can you follow instructions accurately? Can you extract key details from a short text?
So for general training, those first parts are really about surviving in an English-speaking environment day to day.
Exactly. I think understanding a train schedule, figuring out a safety notice, getting the gist of a short announcement, practical stuff.
Practical skills, very important. Okay, so understanding these different question formats, that's crucial, right?
Absolutely crucial. Each type needs a slightly different approach, a different strategy. Knowing what to expect lets you prep in a targeted way, and when you're in the test, you can tackle each question with the right mindset.
Okay, so we've covered the format, the questions, the usual suspects. But things change, right? Tests evolve. What are the big changes in the IELTS reading test for 2025? The stuff our listeners need to be aware of.
The 2025 updates, they're all about making the test more real-world, more reflective of how English is actually used.
So less textbook, more real life.
Precisely. A major change is the inclusion of, they're calling them real-world texts.
Okay, what exactly does that mean? Give us some examples.
So you're more likely to see passages that look like emails, maybe workplace reports, different types of informational pamphlets, those leaflets you pick up.
So like practical documents.
Yeah, documents you'd encounter in daily life in a professional setting. It's about gauging your ability to understand and process English as it's genuinely used.
It's not just about dissecting academic papers then.
Not just that, no. This shift's particularly noticeable in the general training module, but even in academic, you might see a move towards more applied forms of writing.
Makes sense. What other big changes are there?
Another one is a bigger focus on summarization. It's about being able to zoom through info, extract the key points, and put together a concise summary.
That's a valuable skill, even outside the test.
Absolutely. It reflects the world we live in, right? Information overload everywhere. Being able to process and summarize quickly, that's a huge asset.
And it links back to what our listeners are probably after, those practical, usable skills.
Right. These updates, they align the test with the kind of English proficiency you actually need in the real world, for academics, for work, for daily life.
Okay, so we've got the terrain mapped out, the format, the questions, the 2025 updates. Now, the million-dollar question, how do you score high? What strategies actually work? Spill the beans.
All right, there are some tried and true strategies that can really boost your performance. First one, master the art of skimming and scanning efficiently.
For those who might be a bit fuzzy on that, can you break down the difference between skimming and scanning?
Sure thing. Skimming is like speed reading. You're quickly going through the passage to grab the main ideas, the overall topic, the structure. It's getting the big picture without getting bogged down in every detail. Scanning, on the other hand, is more targeted. You're actively hunting for specific keywords or pieces of information that relate directly to the questions you gotta answer. Think of it like using Xtrl plus F to find a specific word in a document.
Gotcha. One's for overview, one's for laser focus.
Precisely. We recommend practicing this daily with different English texts, like news articles or even those summaries of research papers, the abstracts. Try to pinpoint the main point of each paragraph quickly. You'll get faster and more efficient over time.
So, training your eyes to navigate the text, zeroing in on what matters.
Exactly. Next up, and this is huge E, time management. 60 minutes for 40 questions and 3 passages. You've got to be strategic. Aim to spend roughly 20 minutes per passage, with about 16 for answering the questions and 4 for a quick review. And this is key. Don't get stuck on a single question. If it's a brain twister, move on, mark it, and come back if you have time at the end.
Solid advice. I know I'd be tempted to wrestle with those tricky ones.
It's a trap. You lose time you could be using on questions you can definitely answer.
Okay, what's the next strategy?
Expanding your vocabulary. No two ways about it. IELTS loves synonyms, paraphrasing. The words in the questions might not be the exact words in the passage, even if the meaning's the same. So build that vocabulary and, more importantly, learn to recognize synonyms, different ways to say the same thing. Keep a vocabulary journal. It's a game changer. Jot down new words. Write down synonyms next to them. For example, if you see the word demonstrate, think, okay, they might use show or illustrate in the question.
So it's about connections, not just memorizing a giant word list.
Exactly. And lastly, we got to reiterate, understand the question types, the ones we discussed earlier. Each type has its own quirks, so your approach needs to be tailored. True, false, not given, for instance. Stick to the passage, no outside knowledge, no assumptions. Matching headings, gotta quickly find the central theme of each paragraph. Know the ins and outs of each question type. It makes the test so much more manageable.
Okay, all this talk about strategy prep, it's great, but where can our listeners actually find good practice materials? What resources can they trust?
Good question. Practice is everything. The official Cambridge IELTS books, those are your gold standard. They've got authentic practice tests, same difficulty, same question format, same structure as the real deal. It's the closest you'll get to experiencing the actual test.
Nothing beats the real thing or a close simulation.
Right. And don't forget the official websites, the British Council and IDP. They're the ones who run IELTS. They've got tons of free materials online, practice questions, sample tests, helpful guidance. And for those who like to prep on the go, the British Council has this app, IELTS Prep. Super handy for practicing different parts of the test whenever you've got a few minutes.
So textbooks, online resources, a mobile app. Sounds like there's no excuse for not practicing.
Exactly. Consistent, focused practice using these resources, that's the key to mastering the IELTS reading test. It builds skills and confidence.
Confidence is huge on test day.
Absolutely huge. Okay, last lap, test day tips. What are your top pieces of advice, the actionable ones? All right, test day, first and foremost. Stay calm. If you hit unfamiliar vocabulary, don't freak out. Use the context, the surrounding words to figure out the meaning. It's like a puzzle. You can often deduce the meaning from the surrounding pieces.
Deep breaths. Stay focused.
Exactly. Next, focus on keywords in the questions, in the passages. And remember, they might be paraphrased, so look for synonyms, related ideas. Be a word detective. Finally, practice under timed conditions. Make those practice sessions as real as possible. You'll get used to the time pressure, develop a rhythm, and avoid that last-minute scramble.
Stay calm, focus on those keywords, and practice like it's the real deal.
That's the winning formula. These little things, they can make a real difference.
All right, let's wrap it up. We've really dug deep into the IELTS reading test for 2025. We covered the format, how the academic and general training versions differ, dissected those question types, talked about the 2025 updates, real-world texts, that emphasis on summarization. We've given you strategies, pointed you to solid resources.
And hopefully you're walking away with a clearer, more actionable understanding of the test, how to prepare for it, how to really nail it.
Absolutely. Here's a final thought to chew on. Given this focus on real-world texts and summarization, could engaging with a wider range of English materials in your daily life boost your reading comprehension beyond the test itself? News articles from different sources, work emails, online reports, that kind of thing.
It's food for thought, right? It's not just about passing the test. It's about those real-world skills, the ones you can use every day.
Best of luck with your prep, everyone.
You got this.